It was a thrill to catch up with actor Tom Weller, who, I think you'll agree, sounds no different to back in the day. As with Bill, I started the interview by asking him how he got the job.
Oh, we're going back a few years now. My first, I remember receiving an audition from my agent at the time, and I received a script. I don't remember the first audition, if I'm being brutally honest. It was probably in a darkened room somewhere in London. But I certainly remember the callback, and because on the callback we had to play football. If I remember rightly, I just played. I'm a pretty decent footballer, but I played terribly, and I thought I'd blown any chance of getting the part because I played so awfully. But as luck would have it, about 2 weeks after that audition, I received the news that I got the part, which was fabulous.
You play Terry Stoker in the series, in which you work alongside Bill Homewood quite a lot as his son. How was that working with Bill?
Yeah, it was brilliant. I mean, Bill's great. He's a true thespian. He's been around the block a few times, and I can honestly say I learned a lot from him. Actually, it was really good. It's always nice to, as an actor, it's always nice to sort of rub off on, or sort of let other people rub off on you, especially people that have been doing it for as long as Bill has. So it was great, and Bill was great, and we all had a great time.
It always looks like you're having a good time on screen because I think all the actors kind of gelled very well, didn't they? It was a very funny show.
Yeah, I think that's because we gelled very well off camera as well. We probably had a few sort of bumps in the road along the way, but all in all, we all got on incredibly well. We pretty much all lived together. We all had a house in, I think it was Kensal Green or somewhere like that. And we pretty much all stayed together. We all went out together. We all socialised together. So, you know, that when you've got that sort of togetherness outside, it just comes off very well in front of the camera. And we were all young and hungry and laughing all the time, and you know, happy to sort of try new things and try and make it as funny as possible. And I think that's why, you know, I've still got some great friends from the show. Roger, who played Vinny, we sort of became best friends during it, and are still great friends now. Although he lives in LA, so I don't see him as much as I'd like. But he really is a top guy, and I made a friend for life with him. So yeah, I think that's probably the reason why it came across so good on the camera, you know.
I didn't know he lived in LA. That seems like the perfect place for him, doesn't it? If you know his character.
Absolutely, because let me tell you, that man has got some serious talent. Not only is he a fabulous actor, he's also a tremendous dancer, a singer. And what we used to do is when we all used to go out to clubs and stuff in London, and we would use Roger as sort of the bait. So we would send him into the middle, let him start dancing, let the sort of crowd gather round, and then, you know, sort of use him to attract the female attention, as it were. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. I don't know. It was a long time ago and we were young.
Well, yeah, it's great stuff. And that's the thing. You were all, it was a very young cast, wasn't it?
Yeah, very young. I think I was 16, I think, when I got the part. I know, not James, Martin Delaney. He was 16 because we actually went to the same secondary school together for a little while. Roger was 15, I think, but then I think Matthew Leach, the guy who went on to play, he was in Band of Brothers, I think he was about 24, and so was Paul Paris, who played Bruno de Grady. He was 24, I think. So they were the oldest, but again, still young, and you know, we all got on like a house on fire. We really did. It was great. Made friends for life doing that show.
Aside from the cast as well, it had some great guest stars, didn't it?
Oh man, some absolute crackers, really. Some great actors like Alexi Sale. They sort of escaped me now, but also some tremendous footballers from past and at that time present. You know, Martin Keown, Gianfranco Zola. But then we played with some of the winners of the 1966 World Cup team, and that really was, you know, I don't get starstruck very easily, but I was on that day. Football has been such a massive part of my life, and the 1966 World Cup. I mean, I was born in 1980, but it's always been talked about, and it was something that I've watched so many times. And to have Gordon Banks, Jeff Cohen, Martin Peters, and of course the great Jeff Hurst was a real treat and an honour to play with, and they were so great as well. You never would have known that, in fact, I would say every sort of football star that we had on the show were lovely. There was no sort of prima donnas amongst them. They were all really, really nice. And Harry Redknapp, he made a guest appearance on the show, and he just as you see him on the TV, just a down-to-earth, lovely fella. Really, really nice. Great.
You say football is a massive part of your life. Which club do you support?
I support Leyton Orient for my sins. But I think you just support the first team you go and see, don't you, usually? And my dad took me to see a Leyton Orient match, and then I ended up getting a season ticket there. And although I don't go as much these days, I love the club, and we had we had one of the best seasons we'd ever had recently when we got promoted from the National League, and then tragically we lost our manager Justin Edinburgh, which was one of the saddest days I've ever had, if I'm brutally honest with you. He was such an amazing person at the club, and he will never be forgotten. It was amazing. But yeah, Leyton Orient fan since the beginning, really. So there you are.
When you were doing the Renford Rejects, it was a massive time for football, wasn't it? It was really on the up.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously football in this country is the biggest played and watched sport, but at the time, yeah, it was massive. It was absolutely huge, and I think they couldn't have picked a better time to bring out a football show, really. I mean, when we were filming it, I just didn't realise how big a show it was going to be. I really didn't. I just thought it was going to be have a little slot on Nickelodeon, and it ended up being on the Big Breakfast on Channel 4 as well. But I really didn't realise how big a show it actually was going to be, and it really was. And it's still on TV today, which is incredible. If you're up at sort of 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning and you're watching Nickelodeon, then feel free to give it a watch. But it's just incredible that it's lasted that long, you know?
Well, not just on TV, but it seems that in the minds of everybody that saw it, it's still very, very much present, isn't it? There's a massive social media gathering for it.
Yeah, which is crazy, really. After all that time. But I guess maybe it was because I think what was that other program? Was it Jesse's Giants or something? I think that was a few years before. But after that, there wasn't really any sort of football-based programs until the Dream Team came out, which actually Roger was in. Vinny, he had a part in the Dream Team, and I'm not sure, I might be wrong in this, but I think Martin Delaney might have made an appearance in there. I'm not sure. But until then, it was the only sort of football-based program, and it went across all the ages, really. It was on Nickelodeon, so it was essentially a kids' program, but it was, if I used to go out at, to pubs and clubs and stuff, I would get recognised all the time by people of my own age. So I guess it's, people just enjoyed it for the football side of it.
Well, yes, and there was plenty of comedy along the way. I've always wanted to ask this, really. When you were filming those football scenes, there was always like a match at the end of the episode. Was it choreographed, or was it just literally off the hoof?
So some of it was choreographed and some of it wasn't. It really is as simple as that. So Renford Rejects wasn't like most sort of TV shows that the way it was filmed was completely new and different and exciting, because if you notice, there aren't a lot of cutaways in the Renford Rejects. It's all filmed in one continuous shot. So we had to rehearse the shots quite extensively. And what you would have is the cameraman, the director, and all of the people, all of the crew behind, and they would just follow round behind the camera, and you were moving all in and out. And some of these scenes were sort of 6 to 8 pages of dialogue, so they were quite long scenes, and they were all filmed in one continuous camera shot. But obviously, the football's hard to do that. So what we would do, let's say that in the script it was, Terry had to run up and score, blast it past Ben Phillips in goal. So that would be, so he'd be like, right, you do that, and you're playing football, so you can't always get it 100% right, so it might take a few takes or whatever, and then after that it would just be like, right, we just need to match footage. So we used to just sort of play a match, really, till the director said cut. And sometimes he'd say, right, I need this team to do sort of, let them be on top, or it would be, I need this team to be on top and I need him to score a goal. So it was kind of scripted, but a lot of the time it was just, just play so we can get some match shots. But obviously some of it had to be, to go with the storyline, some of it had to be set up. So That's how it was.
It always looked spontaneous, and obviously that show as well was quite ahead of its time because I believe your character. I've seen every episode, by the way. I'm a massive fan. Your character often, and certainly Basil as well, Bill, your father, used to talk about how girls couldn't play football. And yet there it was, in the show, bright as day, girls could play football. That was always very ahead of time for me.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, I think the women's side of football was just on the up at that time. We had, I think it was the Chelsea ladies team come down one time. They were just phenomenal footballers. I mean, it was a little bit like, we had to play against them, and you sort of think, oh, I'm going to have to take it easy because it's a girl. I tell you what, these girls were strong. And it really sort of opened my eyes to the women's game. But yeah, I mean, that sort of classic, it's the bully thing, isn't it? It's me, Dad and I in the show were bullies. And it was always, girls can't play football. And of course, they had Robin Walker and then Lucy Punch's character. What was her name? Sue. And then Megan, who was the third girl. And obviously, they could all play football and they were really good. And that was the whole thing. It was always sort of egg on our faces, which was, I suppose it was a little ahead of its time, It was great.
Well, definitely. I think it still stands up. And of course, Lucy, in particular, has gone on to great success.
Yeah, wonderful. She's a truly wonderful actor, I should say, sorry. And it's, I love to see people we've worked with in the past do really well for themselves. You've got James Corden, of course, who was one of my sidekicks in one of the episodes. He's gone on to tremendous success. But Lucy Punch is a real talent. Martin Delaney, who has made a really decent career out for himself. And he was a really hard worker, and so he deserves everything he's got, really. Matthew Leach has done really well. Roger Davis has done really well. Some really good stories that have come out of it. It's fantastic.
Well, definitely, and it all springs from this tiny little Nickelodeon show that I believe was one of the first for UK, Nickelodeon UK.
Yeah, I think it was the first. I think it was the first English show on Nickelodeon. And it was, I remember going into Nickelodeon to do a live web chat. We got, I think it was 10 times the amount of hits than when Keenan and Kel. I don't know if you remember that show. Keenan and Kel came into Nickelodeon in London, and we got sort of 10 times the amount of hits that they got, which was really surprising to me. I don't think at the time I ever grasped just how big the show was. It was only sort of years after when we, still getting recognised, sort of 10 years after, and there goes Terry Stoker, and you just think, bloody hell, this really must have made a tremendous impact, It was phenomenal, really was fantastic.
You became something of a regular a bit later on, didn't you?
Yeah, so in the first series I had 4 episodes, and then I had a meeting with Stephen Baylor, who's the executive producer and director, and he said he really liked what I was doing and he wanted to put me in more episodes. And I think in the second series I had like 7. And then in the third series, it went up to sort of 8 or 9. And in the fourth series, I think I was in pretty much every episode and had some of my own episodes as well. Because the feedback for Terry Stoker and Basil was really good. There was even talk at one point of doing a spin-off show, which obviously never materialised. But I think the characters just got bigger and bigger because they were just comical and funny. And my performance... when on the first series, I was so nervous because I'd done a few tiny little TV appearances, but never anything like that. And I was really nervous. And I think I went into it with all with the wrong attitude. I'd come straight out of the Brit School, and I've been studying like method acting, and so I came into it like thinking I was like Robert De Niro, and it's just not what it was after, what they were after. And I remember saying, Stephen said to me once, he went, right, if you just look over there and then turn around to the camera. And I was like, yeah, but what am I looking at, Stephen? Why am I looking at that? He went, who do you think you are, De Niro? And that kind of sort of brought me back down to earth with a crash. And I realised what we were trying to make. And after that, I just let loose a little bit. And in the second series, I ramped up the sort of the comedy factor, and it just got more and more. And if you look at my performance in the fourth series to the first, it's like chalk and cheese, completely different character. Which just over time I just became way more comfortable with the character, and I could just sort of slip in and out of him in an instant. So I think that's why I got more and more episodes as the series went on.
And I think that's something that you share with your co-star Bill, because when I spoke to him, he seems to be able to snap in and out of that character so quickly.
Yeah, he always could. He's a little bit of a genius, is our Bill. He had so many talents. Like, he had this really bizarre talent that he could speak backwards. So I can't remember if it was, he could like spell words backwards really, really quickly. And I think he had a part in a show one time, and he was called like the Backwards Man or something. He had all these really weird talents, and we filmed some episodes in Sardinia in the full series, and he couldn't speak Italian when we went there. We went there for 2 weeks. By the time we left, he was almost fluent in Italian. So, yeah, he's just an incredible guy who seems to have these sort of genius about him. He really is. He's brilliant.
Yes, you hit on something there, because later on in the series, you started to have a lot more kind of fantasy episodes, didn't you?
Yeah, there was, I think, well, I can't remember if I had any episodes in the third series. Yes, I did. I think, do you know what? I can't remember. But I know that I had some episodes where I think there was one where I was trying to befriend all of the rejects to get them back for some reason, and I had to keep getting into all these different characters and stuff like that. But there was so many episodes. My son absolutely loves them. I've got them all taped on Sky Plus, and when I'm watching them, it just brings back all the memories. And I forget sometimes about the episodes that we did. You know, there were so many over a 4-year period, so it's hard to remember them all. But no, they were all great. They really were. It's brilliant.
Yes, I mean there were 13 episodes a series. Which is quite a lot for a British series, because normally there's about 6 episodes to a series.
Yeah, I think there were 2 or 3 writers. There was forgive me, it was a guy called Patrick and a man called Chris. They were the 2 main writers, I think, and they come up with some really great stuff. And of course, it was. I think what was great about it as well is we were allowed a little bit of artistic freedom. So sometimes we would just go off the script. If you didn't think your character would quite say it like that, then we were allowed to just change it and alter things slightly. But in general, the scripts were gold dust. You know, they were really, really good.
There was a lot of very funny banter between you and Bill, wasn't there?
Yeah, I think especially in the later episodes, I played on him being a bit, you know, the sort of thickness of the character. He was not very clever, whereas Bill was clever, and we just started to banter between each other and bounce off of each other using that. I think in one episode he talks about Vivaldi, the famous composer, and I thought he was a footballer or something like that, you know, just general sort of him saying these things, and then, you know, so it was just easy to bounce off each other, because our characters were, although they came from the same sort of area as in the sort of bully, the hard man thing, they were sort of intelligence wise chalk and cheese, like it couldn't be more further apart, you know.
No, that's right. What's your kind of lasting memory from that time?
My lasting memory, it simply was, if not the best, one of the best times of my life. All 4 years of shooting that show were just full of amazing memories. Just, you know, from the actual filming of the show to the, you know, to just living with the guys and just having a laugh every minute, to playing cricket in the green room. Every single part of it was fantastic. I don't remember a bad part. Going to Sardinia to film the 3 episodes we did out there, it was just an adventure, and we sort of took the bull by the horns and just went for it, and it was just a wonderful, wonderful time. Great memories, great cast, and the crew were great as well. Everything about it was just brilliant from beginning to end. It was just fabulous.
What are you up to these days?
So these days I own a gardening company, believe it or not. Which was always a passion of mine, and I decided to start a gardening company, but I also do some writing as well. I dipped my toe back into the acting world a few years back, and I did a short film horror for a friend of mine. I did a few pilots for a few things, and I have decided just before this lockdown happened, I had decided I went to the Brit School in Croydon. And I'm still friendly with the principal there, Stuart Walden, who is just a wonderful man. And he asked me to go back and be in the Year 13 production of Sweet Charity, which I said, absolutely, I'll do. Unfortunately, we couldn't do it because of the lockdown. But we've been talking, and he wants to direct me in something, and I want to get back into acting because that is really where my passion lies. My company that I've got, the gardening company, is sort of running itself now. So watch out in the near future because I'm going to get back into it, I think. So we'll watch this space, I guess.
Well, that's extremely exciting. And I asked this question to Bill. What would your character be doing now if it's 20 years on and, what would he be doing?
Believe it or not, right, when I was practicing my writing, I wrote an episode of Renford Rejects, a brand new episode where we're all older, we've all got children and stuff like this. And what happened in the episode was they were going to close down Renford Park, and the sort of rejects, it was, I think, Matthew Leach's character, Stuart Jackson, his son was playing for the Renford Rejects, but they were going to close down the Renford Park. So he got all of the Renford Rejects together to try and save the park, but they needed my influence because it was my dad's granddad or my dad's company that were going to close down and build on the park. And in the script, Terry is a dance teacher, and the scene that where the Renford Rejects go to find him was he's in a leotard with a sort of ballet tutu on, and he's teaching ballet to little children. And that's where I saw Terry being in this day and age, that he's gone sort of full circle. He sort of had a breakdown after the Renford Rejects kept beating him, and he's sort of left his dad and he's found his true passion, which was ballet. I thought that would be really funny, so I guess that's what he'd be doing now.
That is perfect, isn't it? And I'm sure there are many people out there that hopes that one day that will come to fruition.
Well, it's something I was thinking about, and I spoke to another guy, and it's something, I don't even know the sort of mechanics behind it. I don't know if we would get the rights to do it or whatever, but I think there's something still there. It feels like it might be a bit of unfinished business, and whether we could get all the sort of cast back together or not, I don't know, but it's something I've been thinking about, and who knows, maybe, when I get a bit of spare time in the next few months, maybe I'll sit down and try and get some of the cast together and maybe write something. Who knows? Well,
fantastic. I wish you the best of luck with that, and obviously your future acting opportunities. And thank you very much for appearing on the podcast today.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.